Going to Kansas City. If I could, I could, I could, I could. I'm going to Kansas.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. My name is Emmanuel Cleaver III.
And I'm Emil Cleaver.
And we drop new episodes on Tuesdays. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcast. So we've been celebrating this year's 50 years of hip-hop. We talked about it in the last episode, 1973, DJ Kool Herc really got it all going, and here we are 50 years later. We talked about some of the pivotal moments of hip-hop history, and we actually could do that all year because there have been several that have happened.
We can talk about one, De La Soul getting the rights back to their music after all these years, the catalog.
Yeah.
For years, De La Soul was one of the first groups that really heavily sampled other people's music. So they made a deal for radio, and so when the streaming services came, they made a deal back in the 80s and 90s. So when this streaming service thing came up, there was no deal for that, and really every music artist should restructure their deal, because a lot of those artists aren't getting paid for the streaming stuff.
Because they're samples?
No, because they didn't. They set up a deal for radio when it.
What do you mean they set up a deal?
Okay, so when sign a record deal, they outline all the ways that you're making money.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when they could never foresee that in the future,
right,
that everybody would be just listening to music online. So a lot of those artists don't get paid. I remember I heard Styles P from The Lox. He was like, man, I don't understand how these rappers are making all this money online. Well, because he doesn't have a structured deal that helps him get paid from all this music online.
Yeah, I knew that they weren't getting their stuff online. I knew that, and it came out March 3rd. So the world is better because you can listen to De La Soul now.
So every artist should restructure their deal just like De La Soul did.
It took them a while. Man, I remember several years I was trying to get I'd asked to play Balloon Mind State, and they didn't play. The only stuff I could really get was the Anonymous Nobody. And of course they did that 2016, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, of course they were streaming it. So
I
that
just watched the video from there, that video with 2 Chainz. I never knew they did a video for that until yesterday. I watched it last night.
Yeah. I saw that. I was listening to 3 Feet High and Rising. And their skits are crazy. Everybody's got lice. That's it.
I was listening to Balloon Mind State yesterday.
That's up there. It might be my favorite De La Soul album. It's close. That and Stakes is High and the Anonymous Nobody. But check out De La Soul, man. Original group. Their stuff you can stream now.
All online starting last week.
About time. Right when, of course, as we talked about in the last episode, Trugoy, Plug 2, passed. And so it's unfortunate. It's kind of bittersweet he passed, but, their music's going to be played for generations to come. So that's a good thing. One thing I wanted to bring up about this thing called hip-hop and celebrating 50 years, a lot of people may not immediately make the connection between religion and or spirituality and hip-hop. Because when you do, they probably think about what some folk call gospel hip-hop, which is a bad name for it.
Yeah.
But even in a lot of I almost said mainstream hip-hop because it's not really mainstream, but even, what would you call it? I'm trying to think of a name. Not the regular rap, but...
What are you talking about?
Like artists that people would know. Not
mainstream.
The gospel. Yeah, but they're not all mainstream. You know what I'm saying?
Secular rap.
I hate that term, me too. But I guess I'll have to come up with the term since I'm the one that doesn't like it. But there have been a lot of rappers who have mixed in what some might call spirituality or religion, and it's been going on for a long time in hip hop. I would say that a lot of this country knows about what 5%ers are.
Well, a lot of the country doesn't know what 5%ers are.
Well, the folk who outside of New York. So if you're not familiar, there's this movement called the Gods and the Earth. So a movement that came out of the Nation of Islam called the 5%ers Nation, or the Nation of the Gods and the Earth. And you don't hear too much of it about it or see too many people involved in it outside of New York. So one thing hip hop did was introduce a lot of folk to the 5%ers Nation.
Yeah, the 5% Nation talked about it in their music a lot, and that's how I learned about it.
Yeah,
I had no idea about the 5% Nation until people like Brand Nubian started
Rakim.
rapping about it. Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Brand Nubian. Well, Rakim and Big Daddy Kane were the first.
They were. Yeah.
They were.
But then, of course, you had the Poor Righteous Teachers that came. Which, so you probably ought to explain what it is for the 5%ers Nation. That a lot of what they believe comes from, is rooted in the Nation of Islam. But they believe that 85% of the world walking around in darkness, ignorance, really not know what's going on. And then there are the 15%. No, I messed it up. 10%. 10% of the people who are really trying to keep everyone else in darkness. And then there are 5% of the people. They're the poor righteous teachers. They know what the 10% are doing to keep everyone else in the darkness. So their job is to teach. They're called the Poor Righteous Teachers, which there was a hip-hop group called Poor Righteous Teachers.
And they refer to themselves as gods.
Gods in the earth. That's what, some people call the nation of gods in the earth. They believe that all black people, men, are gods. But that's something that was introduced to, I would say, the majority of the country by way of hip-hop. Like we said, people like Rakim, Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers, and the list goes on and on. A lot of people make reference to it. Nas.
Jay-Z even makes reference to it in some of his music.
So I thought it was interesting about just religion in hip-hop. And then, of course, you have people who have just made songs, some who might come from what would be considered a more traditional religion, are still, putting stuff out there.
It seems like the Nation and the 5%ers were rapped about more than, I would say, Christianity in traditional rap music.
You say they talked about 5%ers more than Christianity?
Yeah, I would say
they weren't
so.
Christians. They aren't Christians.
No, you're not very smart.
But
5%ers and the Nation of Islam talked about their religion more than Christian rappers talked about their religion.
Okay.
Yeah, of course they didn't talk about Christianity.
Yeah, well, some had slight jabs and disses toward Christianity. I don't know what J. Rue the Damager, but he had that song. I think is what caused the beef with him and the Fugees, because he had this song called "Ain't the Devil Happy," which is a good song. J. Rue the Damager, probably one of my favorite rappers of all time, underrated.
Underground rapper, so most people probably haven't heard of him.
But he has this verse in "Ain't the Devil Happy" where he says, "Look to your sky for your savior. He won't save you. He didn't save your forefathers." I don't know if it was that line, but you remember Praz from Fugees came out and said, "No matter who you damage, you're still a false prophet."
Yeah.
That was obvious. You can't deny that was a diss. And I don't know if it had to do with that. But you have people like Goody Mob, like their first album starts off with CeeLo Green singing like a hip hop gospel version, "Lord, it's so hard."
Yeah.
And then their whole name, as they explain the name, God is every man of blackness. But you have people like Kanye which is probably his song, Jesus Walks, was probably the biggest song that had hints of religion in it. I can't think of any other song that was bigger
but he
than
even
that.
says in that song, if you talk about Jesus, it takes away from your spins on the radio. So
Lupe Fiasco had a song. It wasn't as popular, called Muhammad Walks, him being a Muslim, which goes back to your point. There does seem to be a lot of the hip-hop artists, especially that came out of New York, if they had any kind of a spiritual bent, it was probably towards 5%ers.
because a lot of them
or the
believe that
nation.
Christianity was the white man's religion.
Right, which just shows, that it's been a great cover-up. I don't know how it was religion when it began in Asia, then shifted to Africa, and then back to Asia. And you don't hear anything about Europe for thousands of years. But somehow it's a white person's religion. I mean, I get it because it happened when the Roman Empire became Christian, when Constantinople converted the Roman Empire into Christianity. That was what spread Christianity more than everything else. And in my opinion, it is what damaged Christianity more than anything else, when the Romans had control of it. So that's probably why people think it's a white religion. But then you have people like Phife Dawg. Phife Dawg, in a lot of his songs, he wasn't ashamed to share that he was a Christian. I mean, he even says it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that would talk about it. It just seems like the nation and the 5%er, Ice Cube, I mean, when he was at the top of the rap game, I mean, he was
Death certificate.
he was talking all about the Nation of Islam.
Right.
Public Enemy.
Well,
They would speak highly when they were at the top. They would speak highly of the Nation of Islam, Minister Farrakhan. It seemed like the Christian rappers early on couldn't have that type of mainstream success talking about Christianity. Didn't seem to happen really until Kanye came with Jesus Walk.
I mean, you had a few things. Phife has some quotes that I use all the time. I've used them even in sermons. The one that we can get down, how can a reverend preach when a rev can't define the music of our youth from 1979? I mean, that's a great quote. But why do you think that is? I mean, because the majority of folk, like you said, outside of New York, and even a lot of people perhaps in New York, never even heard of the 5%ers.
I don't know. I mean, Christian rap kind of probably hurt that.
I think it ruined it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you labeled Christian, when you call someone a Christian rapper, basically what you're saying is you're not going to sell any music. I mean, because they really don't sell like the secular rappers. So, I mean, even I think even like Lecrae, he got away from that term Christian rapper. Now he's more of a spiritual, is how he refers to his music. He doesn't call it Christian rap. And I don't know why that is. Well, yeah, I do. Because a lot of the early Christian rap was really corny. It was really, it was really
that
terrible.
Played a big role in it. The first, because they were just, they saw this new art form and jumped in, but weren't really rappers.
Yeah, weren't really rappers, and they were just trying to take advantage of it, and
the lyrics were
terrible, and so that kind of hurt the whole genre to this day. I think it just seems as corny and gimmicky because a lot of them were like, "Oh, I'm the Christian version of Biggie Smalls," and I'm the Christian version of such and such. I mean, that's how a lot of those earlier ones were doing it. So it really kind of ruined it today, and it's looked on as, kind of just corny music. I mean, it is.
No, I know. You ain't got to tell me. I know. I mean, it is. But I would say that played a role, but I also think it was because, hip-hop, from its origin, was about black empowerment.
Yeah.
And for some reason, a lot of Christianity wasn't really about empowerment. It was about really,
Well, what you talking about for some reason? The slave master taught us.
Well, yeah, that too. So a lot of it, it wasn't about black empowerment. But the Nation of Islam, that's what they're about. But the 5%ers, that's what they're about. So I could see how a lot of young black men would be drawn to that.
Yeah, I mean, I was drawn to it, referring to other black men as gods.
Yeah.
You know,
So it has it had a social component. Christianity does too, but it was I think it was buried, still might be buried to some degree. But those others, I mean, that's what they were about. And so you learn about how to improve self and how to build up your community. That people are drawn to that. So I mean, it makes sense. But there have been some good songs. Rakim had a song called "Who Is God," and I asked him about that when I met him. I just talked about how deep that song. He comes at it. Have you heard that song?
What album is that on? I mean,
it's on his I think 18th letter.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Yeah, where he breaks it down. He looks at it from a scientific. I mean, which I don't know why religion and science can't work hand in hand, but I mean he breaks it down. It's a deep song. DMX has a song, Lord Give Me. DMX was good at it.
That's what I was about to say. Now that you mentioned him, DMX and Tupac, I guess you could say,
Tupac too.
They were successful Christian rappers where they would invoke the Bible and Christianity into their music, and they were extremely successful. Two of the most successful rappers ever as far as sales and
influence,
popularity.
I mean, everything.
Yeah, everything. So and DMX was. I mean, I think he said a prayer.
Yeah.
At the end of every album that he had, he would do a prayer. He would even do it on stage.
Right.
Start crying on stage, asking for forgiveness. So I mean, yeah, he would. But DMX and Tupac, I think they're the two rappers that are different in a way where they can talk about anything. Yeah. And people would listen.
Yeah, whatever DMX was going to, and Tupac too, whatever they talked about, people were going to like, oh, I mean, they talked about flowers. People were going to be like, yeah, you ain't up on those flowers. But yeah, one of his biggest hits, Lord, Give Me a Sign. But yeah, so I mean, it's been out there, it's been connected. So with hip hop, you have this social component that's been out there, Black empowerment. You have spirituality that's been in it, dance. I mean, it really has shaped the world. I mean, all over the world, hip hop, I think, has played a great role. So that's why we celebrate these 50 years.
For the entire year.
Yes. More episodes talking about hip hop. I'm going to switch it, though, for subject. Some people this past weekend were able to watch Chris Rock on Netflix.
Yeah, we had to talk about it.
What was it called? Selective Outrage.
Yeah.
And I know it's controversy, but here's what
extremely controversial.
But here's what I guess I'm gonna ask you about. So there were articles out that I read saying that Chris Rock was beating down on black women. He was beating down on black women. And when they first said that, I was like, what in the world are they talking about? I must have missed that. But what I think this is something that's happening all in our society, that you can't say anything. He talked about one black woman, one mixed woman. And so people interpret that as he's talking about and downgrading all black women. So if I have beef with you and I say something about you, well, this would never happen. But people's like, oh, he's beating up on black men. Have you ever heard that? And all the jokes, huh?
Have I heard what? That he's beating up on black men?
People coming out after some comedian or some show saying, well, you were beating up on black men.
No, I mean, this is a new, what are you talking about? If I ever heard it, this is new. I mean, this is a new world.
But
I've never,
right. But what I'm saying is, even in this new world.
You can say that about any comedian does any stand up.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, these groups are coming out, and I can't tell another group when they should or should not be offended. I'm not saying
yes,
that.
You can.
No, how can I tell somebody else?
Stop being offended.
How can I tell?
Stop being so sensitive. I'm telling them.
Man, okay, so when somebody says something that offends you, what do they
They're talking. He said something about one person.
I know.
And so all black women are offended by that?
No, not all black women, but there are articles.
Okay.
I mean, you can Google it right now. But
Jada Pinkett attacked him. If you listen to it, she started it. He finished it.
Yeah, he finished it. unless she will come back. After
Nah, I don't see how they can come back. I mean, because anyway, you had to watch the special. I mean, they put the Smiths, they put their business out there. So I mean, and I think the Wades are they're trying to follow the Smiths and just putting every single piece of information about their family into the world. But
so, I mean, my question is, I mean, are we living in a world where if you talk about a person, say this person is Latinx, that if you have beef with that person, that somehow the entire community is offended?
Well, that's what the woke crowd wants to do, and that's why I'm not with this woke movement. I mean, that's what they want to do is, you can't even have fun. They want to make a world where there's no fun. There is no fun anymore. No, they don't. I mean, I can't watch Chris Rock and just enjoy the jokes, and instead of him making a joke and me taking that as all black women are like Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, they were just saying because she's black, that you're talking about all black.
Yeah,
and that's
stupid. I would say the person that wrote that article needs to be fired.
Well, it's not just a person. I mean, there were people chiming in on social media. There's several articles.
That's hard to believe that they can relate that to him beating up black women. I don't understand how they can do that. If he was saying something that Jada did that all black women do, I could understand.
But there's nothing that all black women
do. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I don't. How can you do that? If he said black women instead of Jada Pinkett Smith, but
I guess
I
they
don't know.
identify. She's a celebrity, so she represents.
What did he say that bad about her, except he called her the B word?
That was it.
The other things were just 100% truth. And I mean, we know that because they tell us. So I mean, it's kind of truth, and he put his little spin on it, but I mean, he told the truth. The only thing that I guess people could be mad about is that he called her a B, but he called her a B.
Not all black women.
Not all black women. And in his mind and to his family and friends, he had a right to call her that.
You think she's not the one that slapped him?
Yeah, but we know. I mean, you had to go watch the special, and we know.
But the other one was about Meghan Markle, so people were upset about that. But
yeah, I mean, and I don't think that was that it didn't have anything to do with race. I mean, she is stupid.
Man, come on. Man.
I'm saying she is stupid.
Why?
You didn't know that the royal family had racism in it. You're dumb. You're dumb. You're dumb. No, you're dumb. You're a dummy.
It is true. It's hard to believe that you don't. When I'm giving part away, I don't want to, but I mean, the royal family really did literally, not figuratively, literally invent racism as we know it. Not figuratively, it was literally invented racism.
You say as we know it. They didn't invent it. The Dutch kind of invented it. The British mastered it.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well,
we can.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So we
both
agree
that the British mastered racism, that they are the godfathers of racism, that no one has done racism like the British.
Yeah, when you think about, they talk about the Commonwealth. So I don't know how many countries are a part of the British Commonwealth, 30, 40, I don't know.
And a lot of those countries are, they're starting to get mad.
But my point is, Commonwealth is just another way of saying colony. That's just a nice way. Just like when people say sweatshops. Sweatshop is a nice way to say slavery. When you talk about the British Commonwealth, it's just colonization. Call it what it is. But now that Queen Elizabeth has died, some countries are like, let's rethink. And I don't know why they would have to rethink it now. I don't know. I mean, you got someone from another country coming in and you're calling this person queen or king.
That's ridiculous.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But
some of those islands, I mean, the Caribbean islands are Commonwealth.
Yeah.
The British, what is it? The British Virgin Islands.
It's a bunch. I mean, you're talking about even Australia. a part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, those countries in Africa are rethinking it though, from what I understand.
A lot. Well, it's not just them. A lot are, and they should. But
But for her not to know that, for Meghan Markle not to know that, and be surprised.
Well, maybe she thought that was in the past.
And that's what I'm saying. She either is extremely ignorant or.
But how would she know?
Google.
So you Google British royal family. Well, it'll come up now because it's been talked. But before then, you couldn't. I mean, if you type British royal family and racism, probably nothing would come up.
Yeah, I mean, you could. It's hard to believe she didn't know. I mean, it's hard to believe she didn't know that it would be some racism. Yeah, I mean, I think his criticism of her was warranted. I think she deserves it.
But why beat up on her?
I mean, it's funny.
Well, you can say that, but to say that she deserves to be beat up on.
Okay, she doesn't deserve to be. It is funny. Now, when I say beat up on, I mean it wasn't really that harsh
to you.
To me it wasn't. I guess to her it could be.
Yes, it could.
It could be.
It could be a big deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's fair game? I mean, moving beyond Meghan Markle and Jada Pinkett, what's fair game in comedy? I mean, they're
I think it public figures. I mean, I'm not saying it's right, that he makes fun of it, whatever reactions they have, Prince Harry or whatever. I don't even like calling him Prince. The Harry guy. What is their last names? Do they have last names?
The Windsors, I think. The Windsor.
Nah, it's not.
Yeah, it is. I think.
Well, Harry, the guy that used to be living in Britain, Harry Windsor.
No, not Harry. Windsor. It is Windsor.
Okay, I don't know if that's right.
This is the official royal family website.
And it says their last name is Windsor.
Mountbatten Windsor. That surname. That's the surname.
Okay. Well,
but most people just say Windsor.
However Harry and Meghan react, Chris Rock has to accept that. I mean, so they may sue him for defamation.
Okay. So what you're saying is he has the right. I mean, he's comedy. He has the right to tell jokes. And they have the right, and he has to accept whatever they.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, but it comes with it.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're going to go after someone, then that's what. But where's the line? Do you think there is a line?
With the Jada Pinkett Smith, it's a little different,
I get that. He has beef with them.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
anybody.
Personal.
Well, and I could be wrong. Everybody has their own opinion. I'm not a black woman. I don't think he was. It should have. I mean, I know black women who weren't offended by it because he was talking about a black woman. But that aside, I mean, he has history with them, and the Oscar slap wasn't even the beginning of the history.
Right.
I mean, when he said, I felt him when he said she tried to take a job from me. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody can relate to that. I mean, you try to take a job from me, I'm gonna have issues. Yeah,
anybody would be mad about that.
But what's the line? Forget the beef. If you have beef with someone, what's the line? Is there a line that you shouldn't cross?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think it is, but that's just me. I don't think you should make fun of someone's illness. I don't think you should make fun of someone's young children.
Yeah, I agree.
But that may be about it.
They're probably, I mean, comedians do this, but I mean, I wouldn't make fun of somebody's death.
Yeah.
To me, that's a little much. And even though, I mean, I like Chris Rock. I thought the special was good. There were some things in there I was like, that didn't, no, I disagree. That ain't a joke.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready to cancel him just because he says that. I'm not. I mean, hey, there was one in particular. I was like, come on, Chris, let's move on. But
you talking about
yeah, I don't. Well, I tell you off just for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, he says some pretty harsh things. It's not for the weak of heart.
But that's not new for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not new. It's Chris Rock. It's a Chris Rock special. So
one of the best things he did when he hosted the Oscars. I mean, that was probably his opening monologue was probably some of the most uncomfortable moments in Oscar history.
You talking about the last one or the
No,
previous?
the previous one where he hosted, because that was
yeah.
the Oscars is all white, and he
And
went
that was
in
when-
hard.
Oh yeah.
He went in hard on Hollywood, and those folk. I mean, some were laughing at first, but when he started digging in, they panned the crowd. You can see a lot of those celebrities like, but he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
He was telling the truth. The joke where he says, tells Obama, see all these white folk, these are the liberal ones, and they won't hire black people. I mean, that was real. So, yeah, I do think there's a line, but, I mean, we have to be careful. I mean, because if you start putting parameters, then, you know, what's going to be funny? Keep in mind, comedy is supposed to be tragedy turned inside out.
Yeah. But I don't think that Chris Rock was attacking black women. That's just my personal opinion. He was making fun of 2 black women, and then he made fun of the Kardashians. But, yeah, I mean, it was 2 black women, and one of them was personal, and the other was, you know, a public figure. And I agree. She should have known. Come on now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is if you're a public figure, then, man, you're going to be fair game for it. I mean, that comes with it, whether you like it or not. Even if it's not a comedian online. I mean, go to most of these celebrities' pages, and you'll see folk calling them all kind of names, whether they're politicians or actors or singers. Yeah. I mean, if you, what is on the Late Show, they have mean tweets.
Yeah. But here's the thing about life. You have to get tough skin, because if you're not successful, people are going to talk about you. If you're successful, people are going to talk about you. Regardless, people are going to talk about you. Get tough skin.
Well, I mean, it is a reality of life on this side of the grave. That I mean, yeah, you're gonna have people who don't like what you do, even if what you're trying to do is all good.
They didn't like Sister Teresa. They didn't like Mother Teresa.
Yeah, there were a lot
of people didn't like Mother Teresa.
Some people said she was just doing that.
Yeah, I know. That she was, she was a pawn. Some people thought she was a pawn. Some people thought she was an evil woman.
Right. That she was, you know, she wasn't helping the people. She was just trying to make a name, which I mean, that one's kind of hard to believe. The fact that she would live in those conditions just so she could have a name.
That's ignorant. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, that's out there.
Yeah.
So, but check out that Chris Rock special. Now, I put in our group chat, Marlon Wayans has a special called God Loves Me.
Yeah, I saw bits and pieces of it.
He goes in hard
on Will Smith.
on Will Smith and Jada and Chris Rock.
And Chris Rock.
And Chris Rock.
I missed that part.
And Chris Rock. And Chris Rock.
I thought he was going to ease up on Chris Rock, because I thought Chris Rock was probably his boy or something.
He did. He said he complimented all of them. He said Jada Pinkett was one of the smartest people he ever met in his life. And he said Will Smith is a hero. No other black man has saved the earth more than Will Smith. I mean, that's true. You look at his movies. What other, can you ever name another black person that's saved?
Yeah, he's it.
So, and he talks about, he calls Chris Rock one of the GOATs. But at the same time, he goes in hard on all 3 of them.
I'm going to have to watch it.
All 3 of them.
Is it on? It's on HBO, right?
HBO Max, yeah.
HBO Max?
Yeah.
Dang, man.
I know. All these streaming services, man,
I can't watch everything. I can't. There's no way I can get every streaming service.
I know. I mean, that's why I can't. I mean, the fights. That's why I'm switching to maybe Bellator's going. I'm not going to get ESPN and UFC Fight Pass just to watch fights.
I have ESPN, but not the Fight Pass.
I already have 3 ESPN channels. I don't need Plus just to watch the fight. Man, these streaming services. That's
they
another
get carried away.
It's too many.
Too many.
It's too many.
Damn.
Too many. And somehow someone needs to consolidate so that you can watch.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of these actors want to consolidate too, because there's a lot of big movies that a lot of the country isn't seeing. I mean, you had shows back in the day that would come on television and the world would watch it. Now you have big shows that come on and maybe a fourth of the world because the other part of the world doesn't have that streaming app.
I remember even before then, with cable, did the same thing. Jon Stewart, and the numbers I'm about to give might be a little messed up, but he said he has 2 million people watch his show every night when he was doing the Daily Show. And the people that he looked up to were the Smothers Brothers. They had 26 million people watching their show every single week because there were only 4 channels. Three channels. Now, I mean, so there's some big movies that are on Apple TV that I've never even seen.
Yeah, me too.
Some big movies on. I mean, that's a whole nother story. These streaming, and pretty soon there'll be thousands of them. Yeah. I like I'm not even opposed to the free ones like Freevee.
Of course, the free ones.
Freevee,
Crackle, and Tubi.
So check out that Chris Rock special. Let us know what you think. Let us know, did he cross the line? Do you think he was blasting all black women? Again, I don't think he talked about 2 black women. And one he has prior beef with. The other, I mean, it's a world figure that people all over the world know. And I think it was a lot of it was more of an attack on the family than her. But then right after, I'm not gonna give it away.
Just go check out.
He talks about black people too.
Let's check out the special. So Travis Kelce was on the news on the SNL
Chiefs Kingdom,
which was big news here in Kansas City,
all over the world.
And he did a great job, actually.
I'm watching it tonight.
Oh, you haven't seen it? He did. Yeah, he did good. I mean,
I heard he was in a lot of the skits.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be.
The hosts aren't. Sometimes they're not in a lot of skits.
Yeah, he was in a lot of skits, and he did a good job. I mean, I would say he has a future once he retires in acting. I mean, because this is his first gig. Just think what he can do from here.
Yeah. Well, he and his brother have a podcast.
Okay, his brother made an appearance too.
Okay. Yeah, they have a podcast, which I'm sure they have just maybe 3 or 4 more viewers than we do.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so they in honor of Travis Kelce hosting Saturday Night Live, we decided to do the top 5 SNL hosts of all time. So I guess I'll go first.
All right.
So number 5, I have Damon Wayans. So Damon Wayans
history of it
used to be on Saturday Night Live for a very brief minute. Most people probably don't even remember it or know it, but he was on Saturday Night Live for a second. He was in a skit. He thought the skit was not funny, so he added a character that he would later use in Living Color to that sketch. And after the show, he was fired by Lorne Michael. Of course, In Living Color came up later on. They brought Damon Wayans back, and Damon Wayans brought a lot of those In Living Color characters to Saturday Night Live, and the one that he was fired for, which was the gay character. He was playing a cop, and he decided to make the cop gay. Live, he did it live on air.
So there's nothing you could do.
Yeah, so he did it live on air. Number 4. And Kevin Hart has hosted 3 times, but it's Kevin Hart. He has had some funny skits on Saturday Night Live. He auditioned to be on Saturday Night Live when he was coming up and was denied. He was passed over, but unfortunately for him, he stuck with it, and he's hosted 3 times. He had some funny skits. One where he's rapping, where he's doing this rap. But, yeah, you should look up his skits if you can and check them out. It was pretty funny. Number 3, Eddie Murphy. It took Eddie Murphy 35 years to return. Now, he hosted one time, twice, but when he was on the show, he hosted. But he didn't come. He after he left the show, it took him 35 years to come back because I believe it was David Spade did something on the SNL News, and he made fun of him when he was with that transvestite. And so Eddie Murphy was like, well, I thought there was like an unwritten code. We don't make fun of each other. SNL cast and all that, we don't kick them while they're down. So it's for 35 years he refused to come back. They worked it out. He came back, hosted it. It was one of the biggest episodes
Chris Rock.
Yeah, I mean,
Dave
you know,
Chappelle made an appearance.
yeah, of course, people gonna show up when Eddie Murphy's there, and he had some funny skits. Monologue was good. Took a jab at Bill Cosby. Number 2, and Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby used to give Eddie Murphy a hard time about cussing and all that back in the day. You know, Eddie Murphy's not cuss, but you know, at least I don't rape. Number 2 was Dave Chappelle.
Which one?
The first one.
Okay.
It was right after Donald Trump won the presidency.
Right.
And it was with a Tribe Called Quest as a musical guest, you know, the greatest rap group of all time, were the musical guests. And it was a great show. He went in, extra long monologue. Second one was good too. I mean, when I say host, I don't just mean one time. I'm giving it all the time. So that second monologue, when he almost a 30-minute monologue, but yeah, he shut it down, and he's such a great comedian. He could just probably talk forever, and people would listen. Number 2, that was number 2. Number 1 was Richard Pryor.
Word association, him and Chevy Chase.
1975, he was the guest, the first black host of Saturday Night Live. And I believe they wanted him to be a cast member at first. I'm not sure. But he did a skit which he was in Saturday Night Live the week before, and they were rehearsing. Paul Mooney was there. He was writing a lot of the skits because Richard Pryor wanted to bring him in because he liked what he wrote. Chevy Chase all week was begging. I just said his name. Paul Mooney. Hey, would you put me in a skit with Richard Pryor? He hates me, doesn't he? He hates me. He was like, calm down. And then he left. He's like, he didn't know, but Richard Pryor did hate him, which, you know, we all later found out, if you haven't heard, Chevy Chase is a horrible, horrible human being. But anyway, he asked to be in a skit with Richard Pryor, and he did the skit, which is a very, very, very famous skit, a word association.
Word association.
And it was the skit went over well. The next day, I think it was Time Magazine or one of the New York Post or one of those New York newspaper put Chevy Chase funniest man in the world. Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney were pissed off. He begged to be in the skit with Richard Pryor. Then he's in this skit where Richard Pryor made the skit, made it funny, and then the next day, because of that skit, they said Chevy Chase, funniest man in the world.
It was the 70s.
Yeah,
I mean,
so that was
a black man.
Racist time. But anyway, we know that Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor, there is no comparison.
Yeah,
today.
I mean, if you talk about the top 20 comedians, I don't think Chevy Chase
he's not in there.
mentioned in
He
there.
wouldn't be
So
in there.
whoever did that article, it didn't age well at all. But I don't even know how, because that particular skit, man, Richard Pryor is the one who's funny.
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's the 70s.
all right. I got some different ones. Because I was looking at not their overall work, but like one in particular. So one that was real funny, Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. And I was looking at him. He was,
Justin Timberlake. It
in
was,
the box.
Yeah. That was one of the best skits.
Bleep
SNL.
in the box.
He gave a gift he wanted to give a gift to his girlfriend. And it was something in a box.
Yeah, it's a funny skit. You can watch it online still. I mean, it probably has close probably 100 million views now. It's
So
a pretty popular skit.
So they brought him on several more times after that.
Yeah.
I also like in 2016 Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he was good.
Black Jeopardy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
Tom
was
Hanks
good.
has been on there 10 times.
Yeah.
He has some funny ones. But yeah, that one in particular I thought was real funny. Chadwick Boseman. He had the one in particular was, of course, Black Jeopardy, where he played King T'Challa, and I thought that was hilarious. Of course, then I have Richard Pryor, just because, I mean, have you ever gone back and looked at his comedy sketch show?
Yeah.
And stuff that he was doing? I mean, stuff that he was doing was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
I mean, the black preacher that he would have, and when he was the black president. And because that John Witherspoon was in that skit. He had a lot of those.
Warfield, a lot of young.
So Richard Pryor. Then, of course, the funniest, I mean, number one, I have to have Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, the GOAT.
I mean, Dave Chappelle.
He is.
And the one in particular I like is the newest one, 2022. His opening monologue.
Yeah.
Controversial. That was when, he talked about Kanye and Kyrie Irving and their situation of anti-Semitism. And he, Dave Chappelle, he does a lot of edutainment, but it is also edgy.
Yeah, very.
So that's my list. And there have been so many, so it's hard to name. I would say some other ones that weren't on my list. I have to put, Kevin Hart, Eddie Murphy, I have to put up there. And there were a few others.
Yeah, Billy Crystal.
Yeah,
he's hosted it. He's had some good ones on there. Steve Martin. I think he's hosted it more than anyone else.
Yeah. It was Steve Martin that wrote a lot of the movies that SNL after they left.
Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, I knew it was one. Dan Aykroyd wrote. Okay.
Yeah, he wrote Ghostbusters. He wrote Trading Places. Yeah, he wrote all that stuff.
I keep wanting to put him in Three Amigos, but he wasn't in there. I keep wanting to put him. So that's our list. Let us know. I know there have been, we probably left out because there have been lots. Now, if we're honest, there have been some years where SNL, I mean, don't even bother. It wasn't even funny.
Well, they're in a down year now, if you ask me, because a lot of people left. So they're struggling now. I mean, it was pretty good Saturday, but they're looking for their voice. There's a few of those new cast members that I think might be funny, but they haven't found their groove yet.
And they got to find the writers.
Yeah.
But it's you're probably right. It is one of their down years. But there was a while where they had. I mean, it was not just a down year.
Yeah.
It was a few. Like, okay, why is Saturday Night Live still on the air?
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that for a minute. Why is it still on air?
And they might be running that risk because they lost some good cast members. And I know a lot of their skits, man, recently, that's not even funny.
Yeah.
Some of them will start out, then they don't know how to finish it.
Yeah.
But that's our list. Let us know what you think. If you check out Chris Rock's special, let us know what you think about Saturday Night Live host. Check us out. Tuesdays, we drop a new episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcasts.
Peace.
I'm of the models, here I am. I come, that's where I'm from. I say I'm going.